Hello, sophomores. So we are going to start our Absolutism project. So from the high school library page, which by the way, if we go to the home page of the high school, we are now located in two places, which is kind of handy. We can go to school information and go to the library over here, or we can go to students and go to the library right there. So that brings us to the library. And as you may remember, we're looking for the red square, which is the annex, that is here, and we can click on that. And from here, we're going to choose from quarter one in social studies, the Absolutism project. Okay, so your assignment will be in one of these tabs. And we're going to go right to the big picture. Now this is where we really kind of give you the big overview. What do you need to know for this lesson? So sophomore year is really different from freshman year. Freshman year, you're trying to get the lay of the land. You're trying to figure out, how to cite your sources, how to format a bibliography. Getting resources is a huge part of your battle, but this is a different year. Now we're looking for the right resources. And that's really a steep learning curve for some of you because you're not in the practice of really digging deeper than the first 5 results in Google. Another thing that's unusual about the sophomore year is that you will need to take on a point of view. So that means that you're not going to search for the words that are on your assignment. What you're going to do is read for them. And I'll walk you through what I mean when I say that. So you're going to take on for this assignment the role of a monarch, an economic advisor, a political advisor, a religious advisor. Each of you are assigned groups. Basically, each group is assigned a monarch to research. Now, it's important that you understand the context. So you kind of need to know what's happening in world history, and you need to know a little bit about the competition. It's not enough for you to just study your own monarch. You really do need to know what's going on with the other monarchs. Because remember that at the end of this argument, at the end of this assignment, the culminating experience is to argue that your monarch was the most important of all the absolutist monarchs. So, in a nutshell, don't search for whatever, but read for it instead. And 2 is you need to tackle the point of view. So don't search for economic advisor or political advisor. I'm not even sure economic or political or religious are even what you need to be searching for. That's what you need to be reading for. And I'll walk you through what I mean by that. Okay, so we're going to go to this slideshow, which is right here. In your general practice, you have traditionally just searched in Google. So let's say I'm looking for Philip II of Spain. And these are the top 7 results that we'll get for Philip. And these are the sources that they come from. And so my question to you is this good or is this bad? And that really depends. Because if you're up here in the wonder part of the research model, it might be fine, but that varies too because it's important to really think about what are you getting out of this source. So if you look at the Wikipedia entry, there's almost 10,000 words in it. You look at biography.com, there's only 91. So why is it okay to be in Wikipedia, let's say, at this phase of your research? Well, for one thing, this is your job. Your job is to really capture keywords, write down dates, take notes that are going to help you dive deeper into your learning about this topic. But remember, you need a broad overview, and now you need to collect the words that are going to help you get the details. One of the things that's great about Wikipedia is that it highlights the important words, and then it links to something that will explain them further. So those are really useful things. Okay, but it's also really important for you to understand that once you get to these later parts in the research process, this is no longer a resource you should be using because this is common knowledge. What you find in reference resources, so encyclopedias for one, is really common knowledge, and that means that you'll find the same information from source to source to source. So that biography.com information, those 91 words, chances are those 91 words are pretty much in every single one of those sources. That's not what you're looking for when you get to this next stage of research. You don't want to include reference works or overviews or encyclopedias. Student work, no. Lesson plans are the worst. Timelines is just a bullet line list with a date date on it, and profiles are probably a red flag. And it usually says if it's a profile, like BBC does profiles, it puts it right in the URL to help you. So you're thinking, oh, BBC is a great source. Oh, PBS, it's a great source. Oh, well, I can't think of another one right now. It's a great source because I know my teachers say that these are good sources. It doesn't really work that way. If it's an overview, it's an overview. And it might be a great source when you're just starting the research process, but it's no longer a great source once you get into investigate and synthesize and beyond. So what you should be looking for, and this should sound familiar because you've been told to do this in sophomore English also, unique facts, anecdotes, opinions, original ideas, perspectives, new angles. Sometimes a new book comes out about an old leader and you think, oh, but there's nothing but book reviews on this person. Well, you know what? A book review can sometimes be awesome and it can sometimes be terrible. How do you know the difference? You read it. So, typically we get to the home page, we're going to start to do some investigating. We're going to put a period in that little search box so that we can get to the next page, which will sign us into our databases. And here we go. We have history and context. Basically, if you look on the left, you see the process of scrolling down until you get to that navigation menu that appears on the right. And then I want you guys to pick history and context, world history, and then sign in with Google. And then you're going to type in your search friend, your search term, your search friend. And one of the things I love about this, what we see on the left of this screen is really the page layout, which is a little bit different than it was last year. So you'll see that there's a menu. It used to appear in the top right, but now it is a horizontal line that goes across the middle of the page. So this is what it looks like. And I like this source because, as I point out here, it's kind of one-stop shopping that will get you through the whole research process. So it will tell you the number of resources that appear under the different categories. And this is what I mean about you have one-stop shopping for all the parts of the research process. So you can see that this one set of results can literally move you from wonder all the way through synthesize. I also love that it gives you access, it synchronizes with Google Drive. So basically it integrates and you can choose an article like this. And you have some nice features across the top of the page. You have translate, you have font size, you can have it read to you by a computerized voice, which isn't great, but it's better than not having it read to you. You have more articles like this that appear on the right. And then of course, right smack dab in the middle is that so important Google Drive icon. So once you click on the icon, it's automatically going to send your documents to Google Drive. And they creates an orange folder in your Google Drive, and that's where your articles will appear. Now, last year, resources from this database, this module out of our Gale products, would have gone to W for world history, but now they've pushed it up. It's under G for Gale in context. So that's important. And then when you open your folder, it will open the document. Now, one thing that's also different this year is that it created a PDF of this document, and what you want to do instead is open it with a Google Doc, because once you do that, it's going to create the whole document for you, and then you have the source citation, which you can copy and paste at the bottom of your document. So here's one more thing I want to show you is if you do a search, let's say for Elizabeth I, and I'm capitalizing that whole word "and" in the middle so that you can see that it's a computer command that's going to combine these two keywords. And I chose title over there. And so one of the things you guys tend to do is choose, if it's not 1, 2, or 3, then you figure, oh, it can't be in there. And that's what Google's trained you to do, but actually that doesn't work in the rest of the world. So in this case, number 14 is the source I really want. So I've chosen number 14 because the first 10 were basically book reviews of a new book that had come out about Elizabeth I. And that's not really what I wanted in this instance. I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more granular and tell you a little bit more about Elizabeth I than, say, a book review about a book about Elizabeth I. So one thing you should remember is do not click on the title. Instead, click on where it says PDF full text. And here's the article. This is the only picture of Elizabeth I. You will see that all the other images are of her stepmother, Catherine Parr. And as we look at the title, that will not be a surprise. It's called The Ideal Stepmother. So this article is actually not about Elizabeth I. So you're thinking, nah, well, this is no good, right? An ideal stepmother, it's about her stepmother. How can that possibly be useful to you? Well, here's the thing. Once we start reading, remember, we're reading for learning. We're not necessarily searching for learning. So we're reading for it, so we can take a whole bunch of notes away from this. So Elizabeth's tendency toward hyperbole, so she basically saw things in extremes from a very early age. She had a really strong religious foundation and lasting commitment. If you're a religious advisor, this is super important. There's about 3 or 4 more of these. She was an empowered woman, really believed that her stepmother was the first queen of England to be published. She was not hung up on pomp and circumstances. Her dad and her stepmother, whom she loved very much, had a really low-key ceremony. She understood that being a monarch meant you had to make family sacrifices. She was not able to spend a lot of time with her father and her stepmother, which kind of broke her heart. She had leadership qualities that emerged very early. She was very strongly principled. She was not being groomed to become a monarch at all. So that's a little bit of a surprise for us. She had strong limitations imposed on her as a child. She valued education. She had a really strong vision of what women could do as leaders. She was learned. She loved Greek and Latin. She was very talented and generous with her time and her affection. The Reformation was a huge influence for her, and she really became a little bit more radicalized later on. She was super headstrong, so when she stood by her beliefs and she would not be swayed, even when she had to defy the word and the advice of her really most trusted advisors. She had strong feelings of abandonment. She really felt she was orphaned at an early age, and then she couldn't be with her father and her stepmother, so that really strengthened her sense of loyalty. So out of this article about Elizabeth's stepmother, we have all these really insightful observations about Elizabeth's roots and who she came from and how that might have influenced her as a leader. And this is an empathy map, and this is a really great way to start thinking about how would Elizabeth respond to the situations that are happening in the world. And there's a really solid body of evidence that you could draw from in your case for making Elizabeth the most important monarch. Or you could do this with any of the monarchs that you've chosen. So the underlying message of this lesson is that this year you need to select the correct sources for the right place in the research process. And 2, you really need to start getting at point of view without searching for the point of view. You need to be able to read for it. That's it.